I just heard Kelly say Mr. Genuis is next.
Yes.
This should be interesting.
Amazing.
What is it that you do?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Firth, you are without a doubt the least believable witness I have ever heard appear before a parliamentary committee.
Oh, my
Wow,
God.
that man wastes zero time.
Oh, my God. Okay. All right.
Wow.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for saying that this is going to be a treat. You were absolutely correct in this. Oh my God! Like opening salvo, boom!
Shots fired.
Shots fired, indeed. That wasn't even a warning shot. That was a shot straight to the face.
You referred earlier to something you had said about your relationship with Mr. McDonald. You said it was an embellishment. Would you say you're someone who often engages in embellishment?
No.
No. So your claims about Mr. McDonald were a rare instance of your embellishments. Is that your testimony today?
Yes.
Okay. I want to drill down on the resume issue.
I agree with Genuis. This is the worst lying witness I've ever seen. I think Kristian Firth just realized, oh, shit. He's pinned me down. Sure. Whatever. Like, dude, they're not coming after you for no reason. They're coming after you because your answers suck. They're terrible. And maybe you should watch Judge Judy more often, because as Judge Judy says, if you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory.
I know this is sort of stuck in the craw of many members. You sent 2 false resumes that we know of, and you've admitted to as much. You said it was an accident. We have no way of knowing how many false resumes you sent. What we know is that we have 2 whistleblowers, and we have 2 instances of false resumes. So that's a pretty abysmal record when it comes to submitting accurate resumes. Could I ask you, would you be willing to table for the committee all of the different versions of the resumes for Ms. Dutt and Mr. Marevich that you have?
Wonderful.
Yes.
Okay. Would you be able to table them within 24 hours?
I could 48 hours.
I think the committee would agree to 48 hours. This alleged sort of accident with the resume, I want to understand just like really the anatomy of how these alleged accidents happen. So how does this process unfold of you sort of creating multiple resumes, the true ones and the false ones, and trying to remember to submit the true one as opposed to the false ones that you have created for some unknown person? Just walk me through how that mistake got made, allegedly.
You know what I love about Genuis is he like takes things to absurdity, which he just like takes the testimony and just makes it so ridiculous and like throws it back in the witness's face. He's so good at it.
Yeah, it's a premise actually in philosophy. It's called reductio ad absurdum, and it basically means reduced to absurdity. And it's a way of actually flushing out invalid arguments. So if you take something and you can reduce it to the absolute most absurd scenario of it, it's easy to actually understand what happened or what didn't happen. So he's, commenting on this in such an absurd way because it is absurd. It is fantastical testimony that Kristian is trying to pass off on the committee. And pretty sure Kristian knows, but this is it. This is all he's got. He knows he's caught. It's all he's got. So he has to make this the hill that he dies on. Now, the problem is that he's going to have to walk through the process of something that didn't happen and then claim that it happened as an accident.
So there's 2 versions. You have the one that was sent in by the resource. You then have the one which is compliant against the matrix, which is also the evaluation grid.
Compliant.
They're the 2 versions you have. So you have the one, and then there'll be one in between, which is where you've gone back and forth and you've authenticated that A, the technology is correct if there was technology that was missing, because again, not one resume ever matches completely with a government matrix. There's always conversations back and forth between a resource and a recruiter or sales to try and identify things they may not have put. Like we have resumes with 190 pages worth of experience that we deal with some of our consultants. We have others which...
Okay, let me jump in, because there's some things you're saying that make sense, but there's some things that don't. So I would understand if you got a resume that that was too long, that contained errors, or that didn't contain important information. You said, hey, we need to get
yes, that makes sense.
more background on your educational experience. You missed identifying specific skills. So if that's what you mean by fit the matrix, okay, that's maybe a conversation you had with them. What seems to have happened here, though, is that you in order to make it compliant with the specifications of what they were asking for, you changed some numbers, right? So asking someone to provide further information is one thing. Massively inflating a number associated with a particular field, taking someone that says they have a bachelor's degree and editing that to say PhD. That's not just making it sort of systemically compliant. That's making substantive data changes. So how did it happen that you made substantive changes to the data on a resume, and in this case, didn't consult with the resource in either case? How did that happen?
Yeah, so Genuis is accurate here. So, as many of you probably have, you've applied for a job, but before applying for that job, you look at the job description out there and you say, oh, that's requiring a certain set of skills. On my current resume, there's skills that I do have that match that job description that actually are not on my resume because I don't deem them as important. So what you might do is you might add those skills that are missing, and you might take off skills that are not relevant. You see this with people sometimes where they have worked in more senior positions, but they're applying for a lower level position. So to try to avoid being categorized as overqualified, they will remove some of the more senior positions that they've actually worked in or skills in order to be a better job fit. And it's still accurate. You're just not including some of the other pertinent information on the resume. So if we were to take Kristian Firth at his word, then he would have this matrix and he would be talking to the two people from Bottler and saying, okay, so we have this matrix and we have to hit say 5 of the 10 criteria. Do you have skills that match any of these criteria? Because I don't see them on your resume. And they may say, oh yes, you can put this. I did this at this organization for this amount of time, this at this organization for this amount of time. And then the recruiter would say, okay, great. We're going to add that to your resume and I'm going to send it to you. Let me know if that looks good. Okay, fine. That makes sense because it's true and it's accurate. Not, so we need 51 months of experience and you only have 2. Is it okay if I change that to 51, but it's not accurate? Yeah, but we need it for the matrix. And, there's $350,000. If you're the consultant and you're hearing that, you're saying, okay, this probably isn't a good relationship to be in. And I guarantee you that's probably how Bottler would have reacted if they knew this was going on. But what they testified is that GC Strategy said, okay, send me your resumes. We need them, for the contract. And they said, sure, here you go. And then off they went. And that's the last they heard of it. And then later they found out that their resume has been changed without their permission, submitted to Dalian without their permission. Dalian submitted them into CBSA without their permission. So this is identity theft and it's resume fraud.
So again, the second version is making it compliant. You can, after back and forth, you can identify that they would never be compliant, that they don't have that time. At that point, you then go back to the sub and say, what other categories do you have which are level 2 that would have 7 years or 5 years?
Okay. So you enter the false information that would make it compliant, and then you send it back to the resource to say, is this true? Is that your process?
It's a conversation. You phone them up and you say you go back and forth because phoning is going to be quicker than going back and forth.
Right. Okay, but your first step is entering false information that would be compliant with the contract, or at least different information, and then you go back to them and say, can I submit this revised version? Is that your process?
You don't. Well, no, you need back and forth because the revised process.
Right. Okay. You go back and forth and say, okay, we changed the numbers. Is that okay? And if they say it's okay, you send it. And if they say it's not okay, then you sort of negotiate.
I would like to point out one very important thing here. Fox, what's not happening here?
He's not denying it? No, that's wrong, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, what are you trying to get at?
What happens in virtually every other meeting that the Conservatives are constantly interrupting the witness?
Oh, there's no points of order and interruptions from the Liberals.
Zero.
Interesting.
There are zero interruptions from the Liberals in this.
There's not very many of them on that committee, though, is there?
There's a few.
Yeah, but they're not really saying anything, are they?
And Brock was also not interrupted when he was making his statement. Because they would have said, well, this isn't relevant, this isn't relevant, this isn't relevant. There's been zero points of order related to this. Right? Because usually you'll hear, point of order, the witness needs to be allowed to answer the question, Chair. Zero.
Well, I'm guessing that if the Liberals appear that they're not on board with this, then that looks really, really bad because it's all this taxpayer money that's wasted. I think the Liberals right now are trying to, and I don't want to use the word scapegoat because it sounds like these guys are pretty guilty, but that they're trying to focus all the attention on these CEOs of these ghost companies rather than on themselves.
Well, and I think they're just trying to stay as quiet as a little mouse in this hearing because this guy is looking shadier and shadier by the minute. If they even appear to be viewed as protecting this guy, that's big problems. And it attracts a lot more attention to the Liberals that they don't need right now because they're going to get enough attention down the road by the look of this. So very, very interesting. The silence from the Liberals is deafening.
But your initial step is to change the number they put in. Is that correct?
Is to make them compliant, and then you start a conversation.
And you make them compliant by changing the number in terms of the amount of experience or the amount of time. Is that correct?
It's also an exercise for me.
No, it's not also nothing. I want you to answer the question.
To end it right
Whoa.
there. Mr. Jouari, please, for 5.
Whoa.
Sorry, I missed that because I was talking to Barnaby.
No, it's not an exercise. I want you to answer the question. Wow. Genuis has no time for BS with this guy. Good stuff. I'm glad they're all just talking to this guy this way because this guy is party to defrauding the Canadian taxpayer out of millions of dollars. And it's absolutely disgusting.